For sure. Maybe they didn't ask for that. Did they ask for that?
I don't know. I don't know if they asked for it. I don't think so. Let me look. I have it pulled up.
I'm like, Darcy and Lan, be the judge. No, they should have to pay.
These
Well,
are
their
the
attorney should have told them to ask for that.
Welcome to Spedsplaining, where special education gets decoded one case at a time. I'm Stefan, a former classroom teacher and current instructional coach, and I'm joined by three brilliant minds in special education, Darcy, Anna, and Leanne. Each week, they take real stories, often from right here in Washington, and break them down into plain language. We use these stories as a launch pad to explore the wild, wonderful, and sometimes frustrating world of general and special education. Whether you're an educator, parent, advocate, or just curious about how the system really works, we've got you. Let's dive in.
Okay, so this kiddo was first identified on an IEP under developmental delay in preschool back in Illinois. And he's progressing through elementary and middle school, mostly in gen ed, but has speech services. So all of his IEPs are documenting severe articulation disorder, and his articulation is impacting his ability to participate academically. In elementary school, he is his eval is switched, the category is switched to SLD. So there's background on the kid. Now we're in 10th grade.
Specific learning disability.
Good job, Stefan.
There we go.
Okay.
You tried to sneak that one in.
I, to be honest, forgot that was an acronym. I just knew what it meant, didn't think about it. Okay. In September of 10th grade, there's a major fire in the home that totally destroys everything. So they lose everything. No one's hurt. Everyone's okay. But definitely a traumatic experience. They were home when it happened. So that's when they end up moving to Washington. So he's enrolled in high school here in Washington in mid-October and starts attending school that same day. Like they came in, enrolled him that morning, and off to school you go.
Good job, school.
When filling out the paperwork, the parents missed some boxes. What box do you think they missed?
The SLD box.
Yeah.
They have an IEP.
Stefan, there's not an SLD box.
Oh.
They missed the box saying that he's on an IEP.
It's kind of the same thing.
Not actually.
All right.
That's not.
Just trying to salvage.
So district doesn't know that he has an IEP. The next day, district sends the request to the previous district to get the records. But all they got back essentially is that there's some outstanding fees, some partial academic transcripts, that type of stuff. So there's no special ed documents that come. Parents mentioned to the district that they had an IEP. District now later, because we know this is obviously getting to due process, district denies that those conversations ever happened. But
so not documented. They were like face-to-face conversations. They didn't send an email saying like, hey, by the way, he's on an IEP.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not yet. Which how often does that happen where you request records from a district and they don't know that there's an IEP? If a family doesn't check the box, and it's not necessarily getting to the special services office, right? Like it would just go to the school.
Yeah.
And
I think it happens all the time and for lots of different reasons.
Yeah, for sure. When they're coming from out of state, it's harder to get records in general. And parents forget to check that box all the time, it seems. 504 IEP, forget, or I don't know, maybe want to start over. We're not sure.
Interesting. I think that is shocking to me that is kind of a common occurrence that you go to a new district and that's just something that kind of goes unsaid or forgotten about. That none of you are surprised by that. That is
especially at secondary.
It made me start having a practice of telling families, here's your copy. If you ever go to a different district, take this with you. It might take a while for records to get transferred. Just explaining that they needed to have some awareness that the next district won't automatically know your child's needs.
Oh, could that be part of it? Like they're so used to like the district providing services where they're at, they just kind of assume this is a systemic thing, and like they're going to be talking about this. Like there'll be some communication. Like it's not something I need to take care of.
I think all three options that we've mentioned.
So because they only received partial transcripts, district requests academic records again, and again, no SPED records are returned. Also not specifically requested. So kids enrolled in attending school did state testing. This is 10th grade. So state testing scores indicated that he met or exceeded state graduation standards. So there's no documentation on behalf of school that he needs any support academically. But there was documented struggles throughout the year of anxiety, intermittent attendance. He had like a really bad panic attack in math. And that prompted a 504 plan in the fall of 11th grade. Medical providers diagnosed major depressive disorder, ADHD, and a panic disorder. And then doctors recommended several accommodations, which parents report districts didn't take into account when they were building the 504. So his anxiety really starts to impact his attendance and progress. In the spring of 11th grade, mom formally requested an IEP. Counselor said that he would likely have better supports going through a DVR eval as opposed to an IEP.
Interesting.
Do you guys want to explain what that looks like? Stefan peeked up when I said DVR.
DVR.
Division of Vocational Rehab is an adult program that do partner with the school starting at age 14. And their focus is on pre-employment transition services. So getting the student ready to be successful in a workplace and have gainful employment. So kids on a 504 are eligible for DVR services. I wouldn't say it's a common practice. And just think it's interesting that we would say they'd be more successful thinking about their employment and what that looked like after school versus like, let's consider an IEP. But also like he's in 11th grade, he's passed the assessment, he's on target to graduate probably. And so maybe that suggestion was in like, how do we help make sure that after high school he can work?
So potentially the mindset is he's actually doing okay
Academically.
Like, this could be maybe not an acceleration type thing, but like we're thinking towards the future. It's less of them passing the buck and more of like, we think this might be like a super appropriate placement for them. Okay.
Did they formally reject the referral? I mean, that's probably coming.
It is coming. No, they did not. So
okay.
So mom formally requested an IEP. Counselor was like, you guys should probably look at DVR. Dad says, no, we want an IEP. So these are all emails going back and forth. So dad says we want to look at an eval. Then a little bit later, district says we're not going to eval because we don't have records indicating that there's poor performance in class. And he has poor attendance, so we think he should go to an ALE next year. So there's no reason for us to do an eval.
Are school, I guess I know the answer to this question. Are schools not required to do an eval if you request one as a parent?
No, you're not. What you're required to do is within 25 days, have a meeting and decide whether you're going to do an eval or whether you're going to take some other kind of action and document it.
And some of the things they'd be looking at, because they're looking for that, like the purpose of an eval is to identify the standard deviations, right?
Well, the purpose would be to decide whether they needed specially designed instruction.
Okay. And some of the things they're going to be looking at would be essentially, is there a case to do an eval, or would this just be kind of a wild goose chase? And
Right.
they're saying like he's maybe not crushing all of his classes, but he's performing like Stefan performed in high school, and that's good enough. don't don't tell
C's
my
get
bosses that.
degrees.
There you go. But like they're looking at it going like there doesn't seem to be a clear indicator that he's struggling academically enough to warrant an eval. Okay.
Except for
Yeah, I
that
guess
you go back to those prongs and he already has a 504. So we know he meets two of the three prongs for special education. He doesn't necessarily fit under a category though, according to IDEA. So, but it's less likely that you would deny a parent request for an IEP evaluation when a student already has a 504 and you've never ruled it out. I assume they never did an eval at any point so far in Washington State.
No, correct. They did not.
Okay.
I also
So-
think they need to consider like what does that look like around his depression, ADHD, and anxiety versus like that SLD, kind of just looking at the academic piece and whether his attendance might rule him out in that category, but it doesn't mean there aren't other categories that he might fit in. And I'm also guessing probably part of this is like we're at the end of 11th grade. Like he's done in one more year. Like I can kind of see some of that. Like, could we partner with DVR or what's the purpose of the IEP? Not that you can say let's not have it, but like, are we thinking about programming for this student and what they might need to be successful in the world?
The problem is that the threshold for child find is a lot lower. So to meet child find, you just have to suspect there's a disability and that there's a need for services, which they're talking about DVR, they're talking about an ALE. They already have a 504. Like there's the threshold for child find. I don't know if we've talked about child find as much, Stefan. Yeah. The district has an obligation, responsibility to find students that have disabilities. So,
and I think like the decision to deny while family is also saying he's had an IEP before, like that is fascinating to me.
I was kind of not even bringing that up because I'm like, that would be a sure thing for me. If he was never exited from an IEP and the family's mentioning an IEP and current needs, yeah, that seems like enough for an eval.
So later in court, some teachers said we agreed he should have had an eval back then in 11th grade. But they, didn't go through like the formal dissenting opinion process or anything like that. So he starts at the ALE program in 12th grade. The teacher,
because he's placed there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he's assigned.
Odd too.
Right?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
It may have been that they, I think sometimes this case doesn't say but specifically, but I think sometimes we convince parents that it's their idea to do something like that. So we didn't actually place you there. You chose to do that, but we're going to...
We recommended it.
Yeah. We're going to tell you all the reasons why it's going to be such a great fit.
Sometimes the ALE is kind of like an IEP because they are looking at students individually and what they need. So maybe that, was also another red flag that this child needed something individualized.
In ALE placements, can you just be placed there? Can like you kind of be involuntarily assigned to an ALE as opposed to like your home school or neighborhood school?
I don't brass tacks, no.
Okay.
But I think in practice, as Anna was saying, like we convince parents in the sense of this is a better placement, or where we see it a lot is around discipline. Right? Like, where they wouldn't have to deal with this bullying situation is if they did this.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So in this program, I think kind of similar to other ones I've seen. Teaching meets with kid once a week for an hour if they're fully enrolled. Otherwise, it's a lot of online stuff. Midway through the year, his teacher, case manager, tells her program manager that she thought the kid might benefit from speech therapy and that parents have asked her for an IEP eval. Program manager says he's just not going to qualify for an IEP. He's a senior. So his attendance starts to suffer more. That teacher's documenting signs of depression and anxiety, and he's almost unenrolled due to that poor attendance. So in their program, which again, I've heard a lot, no attendance for 20 days, you can't be here. You need to go back to the high school. So mid-12th grade, he gets in a major car accident and has post-concussion syndrome. So this really exacerbated his anxiety, depression, and he was having some complaints about his cognitive capacity, saying he gets really bad headaches, can't focus. So he doesn't come back to school. He's starting to pick his skin really bad, and some other symptoms are just getting really worse. He's having a hard time reading. So now he's pretty credit deficient. In June, mom and student meet with high school counselor to discuss transferring back from the ALE to the high school for the next year. He can't graduate because he doesn't have enough credits. Mm-hmm. So they meet with the principal in June, and mom again requests an evaluation. District writes a new 504 plan to be implemented in the fall. So now he's a fifth-year senior enrolled full-time at the high school. Counselor notes that he's poorly engaged and has difficulty managing his workload. Kids still reporting headaches and difficulty reading. In September, mom asks again about that previous IEP. So remember, they've been here since fall of 10th grade. And now we're almost 3 years later, and mom's saying, he's had an IEP before. Like, please, can we do this? So family reaches out now to the previous district, and they get the IEP the same day.
Probably because they
get
asked
a copy
specifically
of the
for
IEP
it.
the same day.
Yeah. Family says, hey, like, we've been here. They've never gotten the IEP, and the previous district from Illinois sends it right over.
This is a sad one. I know. I feel like this poor parent shouldn't have had to do all this work. And this poor kid still has speech issues that are bad enough, significant enough that they're probably impacting his confidence, ability to participate. That's just rough.
Yeah. Do we have any idea why the ALE placement wasn't working?
He requested transferring back to the high school. So no, I don't know, but it was a student request to go to the high school.
I mean, and it sounds like a digital program, right? Like they're working independently, and you said meeting with their teacher like once a week or whatever. And
yeah, I mean, like that's what our ALE program in town does.
Which can be great. It's just, it's not for everybody, like sounds like this is a kid who would really be benefiting from some relationships, and not that teachers in ALE programs like that don't have good relationships with their kids, but those do look very differently. And so this sounds like a kid who needs a decent amount of consistent attention and a strong personal connection and like a reason to buy in. And you're not necessarily going to get, some of those advantages that the ALE programs will offer are flexibility and control over your pace of what you're learning and choice and freedom. And like those can be, but also takes a decent amount of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like stick with itness is the wrong term, but tenacity maybe.
When I was getting my master's, Stefan was like, I don't think I can do that. Like you just have to like really drive yourself. You don't go to class every day. Like how are you supposed to get things done on
the record? That was like 15 years ago.
I know. I was like, and when you just like scheduled out, you're like, I don't think I could do something like that. And Stefan would not have done well in this ALE program.
Right. It requires a lot of executive functioning to be in a program like that, which is not usually well developed in our neurodiverse students.
Well, and I would argue it's not super well developed. This is such a broad brush to paint with, but it's not super well developed with adolescent boys, right? Like just speaking from experience, organization and personal accountability and time management were not my strengths in high school. And I was not a neurodivergent student.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are they strengths now?
They're better. I wouldn't call them strengths, but they're not
Like,
deficiencies.
we
Thank you
haven't
very
gotten
much.
there yet.
You two need a minute.
She's about to bring up the fact that I haven't taken care of the hose in the front of the house,
Oh, I
despite her
forgot.
asking me every day for the last week.
Oh, 1 week.
Point being that if it sounds like parents are very involved, but you send the student to an alternative learning environment and he's responsible for managing his own time. He is struggling with depressive episodes, and I didn't write everything down, but he's got a lot going on. Like the lure of freedom and not engaging in schoolwork,
But also, I think a benefit of like, if your anxiety and depression are really bad, not having to get out of bed and go to class with 30 kids and walk in the hallways of 1,000, right? Like that's so hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I was going to add on to that, but I can't speak from a place of experience or any kind of authority on like working through depressive episodes. I'm thinking about not to put ALE programs on blast or digital programs on blast, because like the one in our local school district, I've heard great things about, and I know some of the teachers that work there. They're amazing teachers and they form really good relationships with their kids. And so like they can do really, really great things. I'm also, just as an ed tech coach, not the biggest fan of some of those like asynchronous self-paced online learning programs, because there's such a specific niche. And so every time I see like teachers asking to bring those things in the gen ed classroom, I'm like, it's not the most interesting stuff. It's not the most engaging stuff all the time. It's just not right for every kid. So I think it's kind of awesome that this kid was like, this is not the right setting for me. Put me back in the high school. I think that rules.
Okay, well, except for in October, they now are meeting and proceeding with a comprehensive eval, because now district says, oh, we have proof that he was on an IEP. He needs a new eval. Darcy's upset.
It is upsetting.
So now student is saying like, this isn't working. I want to go back to the ALE program. That was a better fit.
We're gonna have to cut everything.
You just kept going, and I felt bad interrupting you because we said we weren't going to focus on the case. We were going to bird walk, but then you just kept bird walking down the wrong path. So I didn't really know. So in October, district, again, we're still in October. District Psych says that they could not validly complete the cognitive assessment due to kids' headaches. So district chose to rely on prior cognitive measures from the IEP that came.
That's a long time ago.
Especially because I would think like his past eval even would have been not, because he's been here for 3 years now without an active IEP. But his eval would have been before that.
He's had a car accident.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, like trauma of your house burning down and being present for it. Like so much has happened in his life.
Yeah. I'm going to have to think about how I feel about that. Because the other thing I think that, and I don't know so much that the cognitive number matters for this kiddo, right? Because he probably is still recovering from the car accident. If he's having headaches, like that should be a red flag that there's still kind of a concern there. But that like going back between ALE is a better fit to the school. And I know this probably isn't in there, but I'm like, I'm glad that he can say this feels like a better fit, but this could feel like a better fit because I can opt out of having to deal with my anxiety of being around people. This feels like a better fit because when I'm depressed, I can stay in bed or I can not get up and engage in the schoolwork, right? And so I kind of wonder, like, data wise in that eval, where was the student actually doing better when we talk about academic gains and attendance and engagement of those pieces versus the concern of just going, well, we just can't do this cog. We're gonna rule that out because the kid has headaches. Yeah, car accident.
Well, and there is a whole category for traumatic brain injury. I don't know if it rose to that level, but
Yeah.
So in January, they do an eval and he's qualified under a TBI.
Okay.
And
Which
then,
would require a cognitive assessment.
yeah, right.
Which is still funny because it's still 2 years that he was there without anything. And then they're like, oh no, he was fine before. But now since he's been in this car accident, we'll diagnose him as
Yeah.
TBI and give him an IEP. Silly.
So he gets, they recommend SDI in communication and organizational skills. So they write an IEP for the ALE program, and this is going to be the beginning of second semester of fifth year senior. Family and school district are kind of disagreeing over graduation requirements. District says, well, he can graduate, and family says he shouldn't. He just got an IEP. He hasn't really been able to access his education for the last 2.5 years. And then there was a disciplinary suspension for an incident, and family says they didn't receive a copy of an IEP or the prior written notice, and ultimately they end up filing a case. So what they're claiming is failure to implement the prior IEP, denial and delay of the eval, incomplete and invalid assessments, procedural violations, and like they had done a neuropsych eval on their own dime. Then they said that the district failed to take that into account. And then also placement and least restrictive environment.
I bet the district lost.
Yeah.
I'm going with Leanne.
I'm just going to go out on a limb, but
I don't know what the push was for the school district to graduate him in his fifth year. I mean, if he wasn't ready to go off and be on his own, how did they not look back and go, yeah, we did miss that. What else can we do to make 6th year look different than the 5th year and actually get him some services and some skills that he needed? Like, that seemed just like an interesting line to draw for me.
Yeah, I also feel like this kid must be pretty bright. Like, he's been through so much and has, like, they keep on thinking he doesn't need specially designed instruction in much of anything. So that's surprising to me. I mean, just organizational skills and speech. So I wonder if he just didn't look like your typical student with a disability, and they kept thinking that the parents are maybe overreacting to his needs or something. I don't know. There were a lot of reasons to do this evaluation earlier and more thoroughly.
So I have a question for you guys. If a family's coming in and saying, even if they didn't check that box, they said, we used to have an IEP. I would think I would be like, oh, well, let's just check and let's request special ed records.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get a release of information and go straight to the special ed records at the other district.
And I've also, if you can't get them somehow for some reason, because we have students that come from Mexico sometimes and we can't get records from another country, you would go ahead and initiate an evaluation just to make sure that you didn't miss something.
So speculate wildly. Why didn't that happen?
That's what I was speculating with. He must be pretty high functioning. I don't know if that was in there somewhere, that he just didn't, they just couldn't understand that he might have this underlying disability. But if he doesn't have great speech, that usually is actually the easiest thing to identify as a disability.
And
go ahead.
Well, it's been 3 years of family saying he had an
Mhm.
IEP. Like, don't, it's not that hard to pick up the phone and be like, hey, this family's been saying for 3 years he has an IEP. Can you just tell me if he does or doesn't? Like, I don't understand why the delay.
But
Well, I
I
do think
think
that child find is, I don't think the obligation of it is different at high school, but I think the response to it is different at secondary. And this kid passed state assessments, and your secondary teachers, which are content specific, are like, look at him go.
Yeah, if
He's
kids
doing
are
great.
lower than this child and don't have an IEP, they would potentially say something like that.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm wondering, just to Anna's point about the why not just pick up the phone. I guess I would imagine on a human nature level, the longer you go not doing it, the harder it would be to just pick up the phone. Because then you have to admit that we've spent 3 years essentially neglecting this like pretty easy task, you know. For example, the longer I wait to hang up that hose, the harder it's going to be for me to admit that like I should have just done it earlier. But you see my point, right? Like
Yeah.
it's one thing if they come in, they ask in October, and like, oops, we waited until December. Let's do this. Little egg on our face. 3 years seems ridiculous, and like I can see people just kind of getting entrenched in their life. They just keep saying it. It's that family again. Again, wild
And to the
speculation, but
and to the district's point, like they did request records twice. They just never specifically requested special ed records.
we've gotten the records from the other school district. There was no IEP in there. Like I don't know what's going on with it. Right? I mean, same thing. We've kind of checked that box. And
But
so
the
maybe
fact that it's another state, like there's a different, you know, regulation, different process, maybe
And
I would
I
make a
also
phone call.
That's yeah, and from like a small district to a big district, like in a small district, all those records might be housed in one place, but in a big district, those can be completely different locations. So maybe like not knowing to request it from somewhere different, but you would think transfers, I don't know. It just
I think it's really funny that, I mean, funny in not the haha sense, but in the peculiar sense, like that they refuse to recognize this other IEP and then they're like, we're just going to go off those results. I
that's a
mean,
good
that
point.
is really odd to decide that.
And I will tell you, I do not want to be the special ed director in this situation because, I'm always saying like, when we make mistakes, fess up, start like try to rebuild that relationship. And I'm like, I don't know how you fix this. This is years. And then to pressure the family until you want to graduate them rather than like, let us see what we can do to fix it just feels really icky to me.
Almost
It's
like you're
also
trying to push the
possible
problem
that,
out.
yeah, like they didn't ever bring all this information together as a team and talk about what the counselor knew, what the ALE knew, what the special education people knew. Like maybe it just didn't ever get all the pieces put together like it has in, when it
The
goes
special
to,
education people knew nothing about it.
I would guess. I would guess.
If any of our special ed people heard about it, they would be like, I have a question. Hand
well,
up.
the psych sure knew because the psych is the one that said, like, I can't actually do this cog. Let's just go off of this old assessment.
Hmm. So, I mean, I'm with Leanne. I think the district loses this one. I think that's a foregone conclusion. My wondering is like all of these end in comp ed. Is that where this is going? Like, what do you give this family? Maybe speech services? And
I hope so.
you said they went and got like independent eval and stuff on their own. And I've learned enough to know that you have to do that in advance and essentially take the risk. So I think they're getting reimbursed for that. I think they're getting like
Yeah.
speech services. But like, I guess I'm assuming they're getting comp ed because that would keep our streak alive with the districts that get comp ed as a result. But I just wonder what that's going to look like. They've tried multiple placements and yeah, I don't know. I'm just interested to see where that goes.
Yes, came out violation of IDEA to not have an IEP in progress. The ALJ said that the delay in doing an eval violated child find and the eval mandates, relying on the old COG data despite the changes in disability and circumstances, was a procedural shortcut in areas directly tied to that TBI. They also found things like objective in the IEP was never actually implemented or worked on, some of those little things. So they went pretty in depth, but they did not have any findings over the least restrictive environment or placement decision. So district won that side of it, but everything else they came back on. So the district had to go. They didn't pay for the neuropsych eval, but they did have to go back and do a new evaluation and take that into account, right?
I think they should have had to pay for that.
For sure. Maybe they didn't ask for that. Did they ask for that?
I don't know. I don't know if they asked for it. I don't think so. Let me look. I have it pulled up.
I'm like, Darcy and Land, be the judge. No, they should have to pay for
it. Their attorney should have told them to ask for that.
These are the five remedies which they asked for. Incorporate the findings of a neuropsych eval. Continue to provide special ed and related services until they fulfill graduation requirements. Compensatory ed. And reimbursement. Yes, they did. And they should facilitate attending Running Start.
Oh.
So
that was the court's recommendation?
That's what the family asked for.
Oh.
They had to pay for 75 hours of speech, private speech, 50 hours of psychotherapy, 40 hours of learning strategies and organizational skills, 80 hours of academic tutoring.
Wow. And you said this is a pretty small district?
I mean, I can look them up, but I think it's relatively small. There's only a couple schools. But let me look it up. They did not have to do the Running Start. They did not have to pay for the neuropsych eval.
So we have a district recently that got some findings from a complaint, and their corrective action plan, which is what from the complaint side, before you get to due process, you get a corrective action plan. And the first one was graduate the student. And then line 2 through 37 was, if you don't graduate the student, here are the things that you need to do. Because once you officially give that diploma to a kid, other than you might have some back pump ed, you're done. The school's done.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I'm kind of questioning that push for graduation, right? Because then once he's got that piece of paper, then the school's done. But
so the reason they were denied the Running Start was he's older, so he's beyond 18, so he's able to do any community college on his own, is what it says. So that is why that was denied. No need to consider or facilitate any community college.
We've had these cases where the parents get an absurd amount of comp ed, and then we have this one where I feel like they were really under.
And they said, with I don't think it had a timeline on the other ones, but the tutoring had to be used within 12 months at the student's discretion. So you have up to 80 hours. You can do it within 12 months.
And is the district going to help provide that tutor, or does the family have to find the tutor and then pay and then submit the bill to the school? Like, there's just a lot of barriers that
they probably have to agree on that from the judge recommendation.
I think they cited the anxiety related school refusal, and so that's why they were saying student's discretion if he wanted to attend tutoring or not. was to accommodate for that school refusal.
I like the idea of running start.
I do too.
I mean, think about the transition. Like if I'm a school, maybe it's not court ordered, but if I'm a school and I have an agreement with the community college, what an opportunity for this kid to make a step towards whatever's next for them. Like any kid can go to running start. So even if it's not court mandated, what an opportunity for him to be able to get a next step.
I mean, was that kind of maybe they're thinking around the DVR thing too? Is like facilitating that next step piece?
Yeah.
And 1,500 kids in the district, little under. So relatively small.
That's pretty small.
Yeah.
And I guess I was thinking when you listed off all those things, I was like, that seems like a lot, especially for a small little district to try to facilitate or take care of. And then I guess I just have no frame of reference for these things because Leanne was like, I feel like the family kind of got underserved a little bit. Well, I was like, oh man, they got slapped. But
it's like
no matter
4 years.
What they get, no matter what they get, like you can't make up the time that they lost. Right. And so that's frustrating because they didn't have to have any of that happen. If they would have just done that eval, maybe the kid didn't need that much, but you've got to, that many services, you've just got to do that child find piece before you think about what would the IEP look like. You really have to decide if they met the threshold for child find.
Yeah.
But then the head injury on top of everything else, like that was a unexpected twist, I think.
Yeah, man. Family's house burns down. Kid gets in a car accident. Like, not great. A lot of things compounding there. So is the takeaway to just if you get a kid and the parents are like, he had an IEP before, a lot of this could have just been solved if they just picked up the phone and like say, did he have an IEP? That's what we'll label the episode. Just did he have an IEP? Because it seems like that just would have solved almost all of this.
Yeah, I agree. And I would add to this is I don't know where this young adult is now, but I hope he's doing fantastic.
Me too.
And just showing that district how great he can do in the world.
Well, how long ago was it, Anna? Is he still potentially at the community college? Was it like last year?
No.
2018, it looks like.
He likely has left community college by now.
There we go.
I hope the district also learned a lot from this case and have a different procedure policy that they put in place.
Thanks for tuning into Spedsplaining. If you have questions or thoughts about today's episode, we would love to hear from you. Head over to our links in the show notes where you can drop your questions, join the conversations, and connect with us. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode if you found it helpful. Until next time, keep learning.